All right.
What's up, chat?
What's up?
Hello,
Let's
hello.
get it. Look at these familiar faces. How's it going, everyone? Jay Falconio with REMCO Real Talk, and I am in the studio with two of my favorite team members, Irina and George Kalashnikov.
Yo, Zach, you heard that?
Same last name. What?
What?
Yeah, they're married. Yeah, they're about to have 2 kids.
Yep,
What's
yep.
up? Yeah, they're with REMCO. They're selling insurance.
Second kid. One already exists.
Let's go, guys. Thanks for coming in. Irina,
Thank you for having us.
George.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, this is going to be so fun. So I've never had any of the agents in the pod. So shout out to being brave enough to come in, and we're going to have some fun today. So let's start with your story, right? So how did you meet, and why are you both selling insurance for me?
Oh man, I think our story of how we met is not something that usual insurance agents do.
Okay.
So we actually matched on Tinder, the typical love story, and then George messaged me saying like, "Hey, do you want to go to some street races?"
Yeah, our first day was a street race.
Yep. So I'm like, buy me some flowers and call it a date. And
Let's
then
go.
from then on, it was
Yeah.
Love at
But
first sight.
initially, first time we met was in 10th grade English class when she transferred from Northeast High School to Ben Salem High School.
It was at Ben Salem.
Yeah, in Ben Salem.
See,
VHS.
I'm going to learn so much other stuff. I live in Ben Salem.
I know.
I
yeah.
didn't realize you guys went to Ben Salem. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, we both went to Ben Salem. That's how I kind of met Irina the first time. But I was like, a little scrawny, short kid. But I already had a crush on her then, and I already had some like fantasies. Like, man, this girl's like wifey material in here. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
sheesh.
Well, I mean, you guys are just you're unusual in the fact that even you truly love each other, and I can tell because even in the office, like I could never put up with somebody like that all the time. You're like inseparable. So
Yeah.
that's great. Where were the street races? In Bucks County?
No,
no.
this is in Philly, like Essington, where all the dealerships are at.
Okay, so tell me what happens. What goes on in the street? Like, cause I'm an old man in a young body where like I think Grease and like when they like use the drag racing. Like, what is a street race? What goes down?
Yeah, so this is kind of like 2018, 2019 era, right before COVID, where like stuff was, I guess, a little wilder before all the shutdowns and whatnot. And back then, yeah, everybody would just like gather on like Friday night, Saturday night at like 10 p.m. near Essington, where all the car dealerships are at, near the airport.
All
Basically,
the
like,
cops are gonna be listening.
Yeah, I mean, it still happens.
But what do you
now.
win? Like, you just win rep?
No.
You win cred?
Yeah, it's straight up like
Depends.
cred. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not winning other people's cars.
Yeah, you're
It's
not
not like
winning.
Fast and Furious, right?
No. There's sometimes like they have like money races and stuff, but that's always like very private. Like not a lot of
Interesting.
social media there. But the pots sometimes get crazy. Like there would be $40,000 runs.
Okay.
Like,
So who was the better racer? Would you watch or would you race? Because I think Irina's got the lead foot.
honestly, it depends.
Yeah?
Sometimes I beat George. Sometimes I let him win.
Sometimes you let it win.
Mm.
How about when Irina, when he got that video game and he played it so much that his foot fell apart?
Where I had to go to your dad.
gosh,
Yeah.
Yep, I had to go to your dad.
Shout out to the podiatrist.
No, yeah, I got to upgrade on my like simulator. And like the the throttle pedal, basically, I put like a harder bushing in there, so it feels a little bit more realistic. And I guess like from like never doing that before, and I just played for like 2 hours straight, just like mashing it.
Crazy.
Because like I like to play a lot of drifting games, so like
Mhm.
you would just like constantly mash the throttle. You wouldn't just hold it. So it's just like that constant of just like beating
Got
up the foot on like a small metal.
Sure. But the real
Rectangle.
secret that I found out before we hopped on the pod was that Irina is the video game queen.
Yeah, Arena's
Let's-
Diamond 1 on ranked. Not very
Crimson,
easy
here
to
we
get.
come.
Crimson, here we come.
This is just Spanish to me. So what, Irina, take us through what makes it, what does it take to be number one in Call of Duty?
Honestly, I think it's more of like the fact that my dad used to play Call of Duty back in the day.
But he never played
So-
with her.
He never used to play with me because, I suck. I'm a kid or whatever. So now I just like grind it out and I'm like, hey, if I get to Crimson 1, that's it. We're going to start streaming. And
Crimson 1, what is that? What is that for?
There's basically rankings. Like when you start playing COD, there's like you
Tiers.
start with bronze, and then there's
Oh,
3
okay.
tiers of bronze, and then after you advance from bronze, you go to silver. There's 3 tiers of silver, then gold,
Okay.
and then what's after
Plat.
gold? Plat, then diamond, then
Okay.
crimson.
So it's a rank up system.
yep.
So you watching your dad play all those years, you were just like, you were gaining all the experience, and you were like, well, when I get the controller, I'm gonna take off. Yeah.
When I move out.
That's wild. I didn't know that about you myself. So yeah, we're gonna get into some good stuff. We're obviously gonna touch on some of the insurance products that both Irina and George sell. But before that, I mean, cars, right? Cars are a big part of your life. We brought up the street racing. I know you both drive awesome vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Team BMW.
Team BMW all the way. Yeah.
Why BMW? I'll ask Irina first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, it was my first car.
Okay.
I actually left Ben Salem a year earlier because I only had electives left, and I think I had like one chemistry class left to do. So I finished it online in like a couple of months, and then I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go work. I worked like, you know, minimum wage, 50 hours a week to save up for my first car, and that was the BMW. Then I got an Infiniti. And that was like the worst experience ever, just because 2 weeks after getting it, I still have my paper plate on the car and things like that. I get into an accident, not my fault, get it fixed. And then a year after that, I get rear-ended and it's totaled. So I'm like, okay, I have to stick with BMW.
God was telling you to get back to the BMW.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, and then your dream car now, do you have your dream car?
Yeah. Yep.
You hear that, everyone?
Yeah.
So if you wanna have your dream car, you have to sell insurance.
You have to work for REMCO Insurance
That's right. That's right. But yeah, I remember you, you know, having that goal and accomplishing it. It's a beautiful car. I have a white car now. It's so difficult to keep it clean. Like
white is the easiest. Black is the hardest, brother.
I don't know.
I watched my 5 Series once. Drive down the street, I'm already
transition to the black side. I know that the dark side, rather, that George has a black BMW. So you guys are BMW.
Although it's like a dark blue.
Yeah.
Schwartz metallic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys get a lot of compliments on those cars?
Here and there, yeah. I'd say more in the F80, especially when they see a girl driving it, because it's like M3 and a girl's driving it.
Oh,
That's
man.
crazy.
Yeah, until I step out with the belly.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, she's pregnant too. Damn, I just got
Congrats,
gapped by a
guys.
pregnant M3 driver.
Congrats, though, on all the life success outside the agency, and I'm really happy that, you know, we were able to kind of use this platform to tell your stories. Well, we're going to transition to insurance a bit. So for those listeners, we have a lot of agents who like to tune in. The products, just for, you know, just for some background, Irina focuses mostly on the business auto product and trucking insurance. And George at REMCO does mainly health insurance and life insurance, but all things health. So that's individual health and group health as well. So what have you seen, Irina, lately with the business auto industry? Like what are some of your takeaways or some of the things the clients are doing these days?
So trucking right now is in like a pretty hard market. The rates are low, and I've had a lot of clients complain where it's like, this is the worst it's ever been. Just because it's like before, when the rates were low, the APRs on the trucks were low, you weren't paying as much, but now the rates are low, inflation is high, APR is high. So they're like, this is like pretty much, if you survive this, you can do anything. So I'm like, hey, the first place where you can save your money is your insurance.
Absolutely.
So it's like, you know, is your truck rated at the right value? Are you doing 20 grand over the value of the truck? And then if God forbid something happens, insurance isn't going to give you that 20 grand. So you're just overpaying that whole time.
Interesting.
So it's things like that.
And then I know you run into a lot of the CDL, right? Like in country CDL versus international CDL. And I can see how that might be tough to sell a product and qualify, right?
Yeah. Because a lot of drivers, when they come from, we have a lot of drivers that come from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, places like that. They have a CDL for like 10 plus years. But when you get here, the rules are completely different. It's like, for example, I had one guy who he wasn't even on his phone. He was just holding his phone. He got pulled over, and it's like a major violation. It counts as if you were drunk driving pretty much for a truck driver. Yep.
And so you're telling me if for 10 years you drove a truck in Russia and you came to America, that 10 years is totally out the window?
Yep. Doesn't matter.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the only ones that matter is Mexico and Canada. So only America.
Those rules are very interesting.
Or military experience.
Military
experience. I actually have a crazy
It's so fun. Who makes up these rules? Yeah.
I have a client. He has a trucking company. And when we first started talking, I'm like, you know, how much experience do you have? He's like, well, I have 2 years, but I have military experience. Can I use that? I'm like, yeah, of course. What did you do? He was an interrogator. And I'm like, no, sir, we cannot
gonna
use
interrogate
this.
I
some
vaguely remember this one because you were like, do I want to take this client on?
Yeah, I'm like, well, what about if I can't give you the right rate? Are you gonna come interrogate me here too? It's like, I don't make them. Yeah, but I'm telling you, some of the trucking clients that I have, they are some of the craziest clients. They have the craziest stories ever.
And then for those listening, who are familiar with the product, but for those who aren't, I mean, it's an expensive product.
Yes.
Like, I make jokes with Irene all the time. I mean, she's like, it's kind of like the lottery because some of these accounts that she brings in are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not a cheap cost to start a trucking business.
Yep.
So I think what you find is there's a lot of startups,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's kind of the run of the mill for you, and kind of some of them things that you'll take them, but you're really looking for the more established companies, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you have more than 5 units as a trucking company, you're already in the top 10% of trucking companies.
Wow.
90% of trucking companies are owner ops.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that for you, as from the insurance standpoint, that also you have to strategically place that business, right?
Correct,
So
yeah.
so that makes it fun. All right. So we trucking insurance, business auto insurance. Irina here at REMCO, that's your go-to. And then on the flip side of the coin, we have George, the health and life expert, and we're over here at I guess it's a hot market. We got CEOs getting shot in health insurance. What's up with that,
Yeah,
George?
that whole United healthcare situation was
What
pretty
happened?
wild.
What happened there? Other than a man getting assassinated.
Yeah, other than the guy exiting to the shadow realm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really strange because like when people get really upset about health insurance companies denying claims, more often than not, you would find that like they don't even appeal it.
Mhm.
So sometimes there would be like a billing error issue from the provider itself, or for instance, they didn't get a prior authorization from the doctor or something like that.
Mhm.
Because statistically, actually, only 4% of the, there's been like that number thrown around, 32% of United Healthcare claims that get denied. But only 4% of those claims ever get appealed by the customer itself. Like, hey, like, what's going on? Why didn't you cover it? And then 80% of those always get overturned. So, like, the 4% of people that actually ask, like, hey, what's going on? Like, why isn't this getting covered? 80% of them get, like, oh, yeah, there's, like, a billing error, this error, this error. Here you go. Everything's covered. Everything's good. Because, like, talking about United, like, our first kid, Olivia, she was born on United Healthcare policy. Our second kid right now, he's going to be born on United Healthcare policy, and everything is fine.
Okay.
The funny part, actually, our gyno. So he's a Russian-speaking gyno, and, I really likes him because he's, like, really chill. Like,
Yeah.
you can get, like, a blood work really easy through him. Like, an appointment is, like, very convenient. It's, like, close to the office. Whenever we go through him, we always pay an absurd copay, like $200, $150
Wow.
copay, even though he's in network, and technically by our plan we shouldn't pay. And the funny part, so he doesn't see you after I believe like second trimester. So he only sees you up to like a second trimester because he doesn't do any like deliveries. He doesn't like.
Got it.
After when we go to St. Mary's, all of our other appointments we don't even pay because like it's a zero copay. So it's like
Yeah.
it's probably the front desk just doing something wrong, and they've been doing it wrong for so long that they don't even bother correcting
And
it.
you're in an interesting position because you're selling the product, right?
Yeah.
Like how many people wouldn't even they just go with it, right?
Yeah.
Like even myself, or I mean the average, somebody who's having a baby for the first time, they just accept it. Whereas
Yeah.
like, you're selling this product, you're educating the end user or your client about what they're buying. So it's an interesting position for you to be in.
Yeah, because I always tell people like, don't worry, like you'll have time to pay them. Like even if it goes to if it goes to first round of collections, that's
Yeah.
not really collections. That's that like,
That's
that
good
place
advice.
trying to get the money. So like first ask questions. Like you'll have time to pay. Don't worry.
Trust
ask
me.
questions.
And I think on a joking manner, we wait for our money as agents too, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're always
Yeah.
waiting
Speaking
for this
of
money. So
commissions, yeah, some of these
we'll
carriers.
not bash a particular carrier, but I mean, just keeping this an inside the room conversation. George, myself, our controller Krista, like George writes a lot of business during opening enrollment, and we don't really see that money hit our account
Yeah.
for quite some time.
like 2-3 month delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think
2-3 months.
last year was like 6 months.
Yeah, last year
So
was
you
6
big-
months.
you big
This year,
carriers
it's already
get it.
getting better. Honestly,
Yeah.
they've got their stuff together, and plus,
That's
like
good to hear.
we switched to most of our business with Jefferson Health, which they've been like super fantastic with, like feedback and stuff. And they actually always ask us, like, "Oh, brokers, what do you guys want to change? What do you want to add?" So,
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man. I mean, these companies, they get so big, IBX, I said we weren't going to bash them, but we already brought up Jefferson. We're bringing up IBX, but they get so big, and then their logos on the side of the Phillies uniform, and they're just such a big.
They got 3
conglomerate.
skyscrapers.
Yeah, 3 skyscrapers. All right, we'll leave it there. But they get so big that they can't manage or take care of their infrastructure. I mean, the technology alone, and I bring this up a lot on the podcast, on the PNC side. I'm sure Irina definitely will roll some eyes at some carriers' portals or the way that they do things. I feel that the insurance industry as a whole, on the health insurance side, life insurance side, PNC side, we're operating on like Windows XP.
Yep.
Like everybody is like, backwards. And
we can't wait for this AI to come soon enough. Jeez,
right, I know.
Replace us.
So we're just over here just spilling our insurance suit drama. But yeah, so I want to touch a little bit on the clientele and the community that you service in the metro or the Philadelphia area. Very active in your faith, correct, and your local church. How would you suggest to somebody new getting into the insurance industry? How can they put their name out there? What should they be doing? What are the things that worked for you? If it's similar, please, bring it up. But if there's other strategies for you guys that allowed you to build a name in the insurance industry.
You want to go first? Because I think ours are completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, mine was honestly basic.
George is like, I love to talk.
I love yapping.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty simple because my advantage is that I speak Russian. And there's a really heavy Russian/Ukrainian, Belarusian community in Northeast Philly area. Besides Chicago, New York, the 3 big ones is Philly, New York, and Chicago. I just kind of tailored very simple Canva self-made ads on these random Facebook pages. Be like, hey, if you need health insurance agent, let me know. We don't charge any fees. The main thing, and the rest is honestly history. And always when people because I still get this even today. Somebody called me, coded everything out. He's happy. They're gonna come in on Thursday, and then they're like, "What do we owe you?" And I'm like, "You don't owe me anything. You just owe me a referral." I just always remind them I don't need any money from you.
Interesting.
You just pay your insurance, but whatever you can, please give me a referral. You always have to honestly ask them, and then whenever they hear that, I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna tell all my friends. I'm gonna call my aunt right now."
Such a good strategy.
Yeah, as soon as what do I owe you? You make that good sale,
yeah,
and they're already grateful and they kind of want to give you something. I even had some ladies you want a spa massage with your wife? Whoa, whoa! I'm not just a referral lady.
Are you giving the massage? But to your point, it's such a good practice, right? When you provide that service that you're paid to provide, and then just asking who else can benefit from this experience or this what I provide. That's
and
incredible.
We're fortunate enough that insurance companies pay us very well, and it's especially on the health side, the commission is not based by the premium. You just get your steady commission. So at the end of the day, you have clients' best interest at heart.
Absolutely.
So I don't care if I sell you a bronze plan or a gold plan. It's not gonna skew my
no, that's important.
Hunger for the sale. I'm gonna make sure you get the best coverage that you need. If you're a young guy and you just tell me that you go to a PCP once a year, you can swing it with a bronze plan and have that $5,000 deductible. It's okay.
And that's beautiful to be able to actually manipulate.
Yeah.
Just be able to customize that product and not upsell, right?
Exactly.
On the PNC side, it could get a little bit more hairy with that. And I can say that the best time at REMCO where we can kind of flex that PNC muscle is looking at the policy and seeing, what are you covered for, what are you not covered for, or are you underinsured, right? Because that's scary, right, for any business. So, okay, cool. So transition to Irina. I guess you're part of establishing a name in the PNC side of things.
Yeah, mine's a little bit different than George's. Just because when I first started out with PNC, a lot of my leads were just referrals from existing friends from the car community. Because I'm I know you guys love to drive fast. I know you guys have tickets. It's going to be a good premium. Let's shop it. Let's do what we can to get it down for you. So we started with that. And then after that, I had a client come in who was looking for physical damage on his truck.
Sure.
And I'm like, you know what? I like this. I like anything automotive. So I'm motorcycles, if you have a really old car, trucks, let's do it. And then from there, I realized that a lot of Russian-speaking clients are usually truck drivers.
Yeah.
So when I started doing the trucking side, I'm like, hey, George, at that time he was working in a mechanic shop. So I'm telling you, our whole life is just surrounded by cars.
Just cars everywhere.
And before the mechanic shop, I used to be a dispatcher for.
Yes.
I used to be a freight dispatcher. So that's initially how I told him, like, Irina, like, can you do our insurance, the company that I work at? And then she's like, trucking insurance? I've never done it. Let me try it.
Yep.
And then it just like started ever since.
Beautiful storm. Love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just so happens to be such an expensive but also dangerous product.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Be like, all right, my wife's gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's high risk, high reward.
Yes.
The premium is high, but if something happens,
let's talk about that.
Irina's
too.
basically a weather woman because she always watches the weather.
Yes.
Really?
I'm always watching the
no,
weather.
it makes perfect sense, but it means a lot to hear that you're
praying for them clients. Don't
Every-
hang out,
Yep.
please.
My gosh, I mean, they had them truck runoffs on some parts of PA, and it's a scary position to be in.
It's like a secret thing that I do. Anytime I'm on Facebook and I see like a car pile up anywhere, I have to like zoom in on the picture to make sure it's not like a DOT number for any of our clients.
Yeah, one of yours.
Yeah.
I remember us chatting immediately after 95, the 95 crash.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a local Pennsauken. I always mispronounce that. If Kelly's listening, she's gonna make fun of me. But it was a local trucking company, and I think I recognized the name, and I text you immediately. Is that one of yours?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dangerous job. I mean, they're long hours.
Mm-hmm.
The lifestyle's extremely unhealthy. I
Yeah.
mean, you're basically running off Slim Jims and Big Gulps,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to hit a timeline, right? You know, and then the weather comes in the way, and you can't really help it. If it's
Yeah, it's
sleeting,
not
it's
easy.
sleeting. It's not easy. So I think in terms of selling the insurance side of things, it is a high risk, high reward product, not only for the driver, but for the agent as well. Like
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of these policies over a year, you know, cancel because the business, the trucking business just fell apart. They went out of business, or, you know, the coverage, they switched coverage.
Yeah.
So from somebody who's selling it, you know, from a livelihood standpoint, it hurts when those big accounts cancel, right? You know, so it's trying to find the quality trucking accounts.
Yeah, and I found there's more, I guess, loyalty within your own community.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying, like, how does a new agent start
Yep,
selling
sure.
and get insurance leads? It's just finding your community.
Yes.
Whether it's like a religious group, a hobby that you do, sports, anything like that. You just have to find these people that, you know, you guys have the same thing, and then insurance is going to come up anyways, because it's like, hey, for example, like, we're all into cars, but what do you do
Sure.
other than, you know, race on the
Absolutely.
streets
Mhm.
at 12 a.m.?
It comes up on the show a lot. Like
Yep. Yeah.
people want to know, you know, what BNI, what LATIP, what chamber do I have to join? If you don't feel comfortable in that setting, just look at what are your interests and what do you do on the weekends.
Yep.
If it's church, if it's, you know, running, if it's, you know, a gym or something like that,
Yeah, because
Focus on that.
they don't buy the product; they buy you.
they buy
Yep.
you.
Because they
That's
buy that
absolutely right.
relationship. They like the way you like.
Yeah.
If you're nice to them, if you're attention
They'll
to
buy
detail.
you first, and then as long as you're competent and able to deliver the product and take
Yep.
care of the product, then they'll stay with you
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. So I know social media for Irina on the Facebook side's big, and I know that those trucking groups are super,
Yep.
super big for you. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so trucking groups, you pretty much have your Russian speaking groups.
Mhm.
Then you have your, hey, I'm new, just starting out groups, dispatchers. So wherever you want to go, usually the Russian trucking groups are the best because our last name is Kalashnikov.
Yeah.
So my number one ad is if you have any problems with insurance, you know, Kalashnikov can solve it, and all the guys just die at it. They're like, oh my
It's the
God.
Yeah,
best.
they laugh
It's
and then
the
they call
best.
and they're like, "Hey, I just banged out. Can you help me with this?" Thinking that she's like an attorney or something. It's like
I get
brother,
those calls too, and I'm
insurance.
like,
It's
sorry, no.
absolutely the best last name of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
very nice. Everybody always any relations. It's like, if I had relations, I would not be sitting here. I would be somewhere in Maldives drinking the little drinks with the umbrellas,
I'll tell you.
soaking in the sun. But
So
So I'm gonna put you back in the hot seat.
go.
Jay.
Yeah. Let's go.
Little history of how we started at REMCO.
Yeah.
So when we first started, we were working at a different agency, and I just found out that I was pregnant with Olivia,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, oh man, this is tough because we're making like, you know, $15 an hour, no leads, no nothing, and we started looking for a job.
and George just started selling insurance for 2 months. And
Yeah,
then,
George-
oh, Irina's pregnant.
George was selling insurance for only 2 months, and I found out I was pregnant. And then I started looking for another job because it wasn't working out. I wasn't going to be able to work and then have a kid. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
And then we met at, I believe, was it a LATIP?
No, it was at
Newtown Business
Newtown
Association,
Business
Triple
Association.
Sons.
Yeah, Triple
Yeah.
Sons.
And we were just going to talk about, hey, can I use your carriers for some of the trucking products that we're going to sell? And then I came and you guys offered a job.
Pretty quick. Yeah.
And the craziest part to me was I told you, because when I was looking for a job, I'm like, hey, I understand that legally I'm not obligated to say that I'm pregnant, but that would just be like a really bad foot to start on with a new company. And when you're like, we're actually offering you a job, and I'm like, cool, but I also have my husband, and you're like, that's fine, we already talked about it, we're gonna hire him too. And I'm like,
yeah, that
no
part
way.
honestly mind boggled me. It's like, sheesh, this guy really did that
Yeah.
recon, found out who the husband is, who
Yeah.
sells health insurance. It's like, hey,
And
two birds
then
with one stone.
after I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm pregnant, you were kind of like, oh, well, decide what you want to do. If you want to wait until you deliver the baby, or if you want to switch now.
Yeah.
And then I think we left off of me being like, hey, I'm going to deliver the baby, go on maternity leave, and then come back.
Yeah.
And then I think it only took like a month. And I'm like, hey, Jay, is the option still on the floor? So I was wondering, what made you take such a big leap? Because, it's like,
Yeah.
not only is it a husband and wife team, which is usually like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Tension.
everybody's going to be arguing in the office, but also a pregnant lady.
I'll tell you. I go by vibes, and I would have to give a shout out to Ravim. So he's my mentor. He's the reason why I'm here with REMCO. He's a brother to me, and I bounce a lot of things that go through my brain every day with him. And we have this relationship where, we run ideas by each other, and then we always come out, and I will tell you, it's always right. When me and him kind of sync up, and I told him, who I met and what the opportunity would have been, it made sense for the two of us. And we were just like, we have to do this. I think that if you lead with, outside of work first, you were genuine and you were honest, and you came forth with all your information, that the only way we're going to build a good company is if we build it with the proper balance. I mean, and again, you're pregnant again.
Yes.
And we have Pete, who's on paternity leave right
Yep,
now. So
yep.
I think for those listening, the culture, right?
Yep.
Building that culture is the key to business growth and success. Yes, it was a risk. It was absolutely probably insane, but it worked. It worked, and I'm proud to say that we've been together for as long as we have, and I know that you guys will go to bat for the brand.
Yeah.
All the time, and you'll work. I mean, George run open enrollment. It's unreal. Irina, during those crazy hours with the calls from the truckers and things, you'll work outside the normal 9 to 5 when you have to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be asked. It's just an understanding. So yeah, it was a crazy move. I'm happy we did it. And I hope that you are happy with the outcome too, as well. I think you guys are working really well together.
It's been the craziest blessing so far. Well, besides my, marrying Irina.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But yeah, REMCO's been a blessing. It's answered prayers, because we were actually like, after the whole interview stuff, like we were praying a lot about it. So
yeah,
so we're happy. God was good. Thank you.
I think that's what kind of sets REMCO apart. Is it's, even though it's kind of a corporate job, we're very not corporate about it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, as long as things get done,
yeah,
we're all good. Even though our personalities are completely different in the office. We have Carl, who's like very suit and tie, by the books kind of guy. Then we have Alina, who's just the crazy one, the crazy redhead in the office. So, but
in a good way.
In a good way, we all
love
love
Irina.
We love each other. Yeah,
Alina.
and I know it's kind of frowned upon or like toxic to say that, like, oh, we're just one big family, but we really are, because we accept everybody for who they are. We know the shortcomings of like certain agents and what they are, and then we just kind of like work together to get through it.
And everybody is important in their own way. Everyone brings a different piece to the puzzle, right? And everyone's strengths are different, and we work out those differences when they come up. I can say that it works because everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the big piece. And that office culture on certain days when we're all in there, sometimes, even as crazy as it is, those are my most enjoyable days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're fun.
They're fun. We try to do our best. So yeah, for those listening, I mean, we're about a team of 15, all different shapes and sizes. But that's what the secret sauce is. And, right now, my goal is to continue to add more value and add more individuals to our family, but it's really hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, it's hard to find motivated talent.
No, it's hard to find people who jive with what we are, right? Like that's my biggest stressor right now. If I have, just be completely honest with you, is growing this out to 20, but making sure that the current 15 stay intact.
Yeah.
Right. And then hitting those sales goals every month. Right. You guys, we have these high goals. We have these high standards here. Things get done, but the expectation's still there, and we're definitely a results driven company. All we had to do was put a whiteboard in the conference room with everyone's name on it. But there's some humor behind that. But we do have a job to do at the end of the day, and it is a results driven company. And the reason why these results are set is so that we can continue to get the next BMW and the larger house. And as life happens and the ups and downs happen, and we've all been there for each other in one way or another. When there are highs and lows outside the office, we support one another.
Yeah.
So I'm glad
shout out to REMCO.
I'm glad you feel that. Yeah, that was really nice.
It's crazy how
and America
a melting pot, because our office is so diverse now.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Like we have Ukrainians, Russians, Moldovians, Jewish, Azerbaijan, Catherine, I'm pretty sure Filipino.
Then you got
Irish, Italian.
Crazy Italian. Yeah, it's great.
But we don't have
any Spanish.
We
need that. So shout out anyone
Spanish,
listening, insurance Spanish agents out there.
Yes.
Come to REMCO.
Come on over.
I appreciate it. I wasn't prepared for that, so that was nice. I really turning it around on me.
Yeah.
That's cool, and I'm glad that we're using this platform for that. I would say for you guys, what are your next goals? Because if you're saying that all of these years were a blessing in the right direction, what personal goals have you maybe set for individually or as a couple or a family for the next year? Anything?
Irina becoming a streamer.
Irina becoming back to the Call of Duty stuff.
Back to the Call of Duty.
Maybe. That's just like a hobby that's like after work hours where it's like,
because it's always like, what would you get paid on?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, what would you do and not get paid on?
What would you do and not get paid on?
Yeah.
That you wouldn't mind getting paid.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Yeah.
But I think
golf.
Yeah, I need it. No one's paying me to play golf. Not right now.
Yeah, I think
we'll see.
The next goal is probably a house. But we'll see what this market.
Okay.
Work-wise, honestly, I think it's true for the both of us. I want to be at that point where I'm just working on my renewals, keeping my same clients going.
Yeah, where I'm not looking at that new business board, and that I'm just like focusing on the 3 to 4 month period of just like insane renewals for the whole year.
Just, buying yourself out based on renewals, and then the world is your oyster on who you want to go market to.
It's a good goal. It's a high goal.
Yeah.
It's a high goal.
Yeah, it's not an easy one. But I mean,
it's a good goal.
Possible,
let's keep it. Yeah, keep it.
If you're at it for like the next 2-3 years, I think it's possible to achieve it.
So I get that feeling too. And for all those salespeople, whether you're in insurance or not, the hunt, right? That kind of it gets hard over time, right? Kind of trying to continue to generate new business. I mean, for me though, to be completely honest, I am addicted to the hunt.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I could never say I want to live off renewals. I would always be looking for the next hockey stick growth move. But it doesn't mean that my way's right or your way's right or et cetera. It's just a point of view. I enjoy at this point still. Kelly probably doesn't be coming home so late at night on the networking nights, but I love going out and finding big accounts for us. Like if I can find a really, really good account, I love that. And I love when it closes. It's honestly like a drug.
Oh yeah.
And I see you when you close a $200,000 trucking deal. I do see you there, but it is like a rush for now. But again, you bring up a good point. As time goes on, you get older, things change outside the office, that those activities that used to bring joy and pleasure become a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But if you can live off your nose, and look, this industry allows it, right?
Yeah. There's
a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, et cetera, who do that. But that doesn't come without because literally grinding your ass off.
Anybody you ask about their auto insurance, like, oh yeah, I've been with my agent for 8 years.
Yeah.
Those are the clients.
You know what I mean? And it's how long does it take you to do a renewal every year for them?
No.
30, 40 minutes, and 100%. Then you're done. Instead of just hunting for something new, you'll get them a better rate, but the next year they're going to leave you for a better rate.
I'm with you.
Instead of them just being, in love with your service, in love with you, and then you just keep that relationship going.
Certain products are easier than others, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, some of the clients we brought on this year have been with brokers for a while, like 3, 4, 5 years, and then we got them, right?
Yeah.
That for me was like,
or like Mark trying to get our landlord, and he finally got him this year. It's like, shout out to
you'd be
Mark.
chasing that
The
gas
grind-
station on the
grind
corner
never
for 20
stops.
years. I'm waiting for the gas station.
Yeah.
The one where he shot that pickup truck
Oh, yeah,
video.
yeah.
I was looking through that old stuff last night.
Yeah,
Or-
that pickup truck video, that was funny.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna have George and Irina on the pod, and I was like, let's look at some of the old stuff. The one where like, I'm falling off the Lee's Hoagies steps.
Yeah, or the car
In my
accident
white
with
pants.
Pete. The
Yeah,
car
yeah.
accident.
Anyway,
Oh,
so
not the BMW driver.
this was about 2 years ago when the content was at its peak.
At its peak,
It's
yeah.
crazy how much we grew from there.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. But yeah, I think that certain products carry more loyalty. Home and auto these days very low. Like I think my uncle left Remco because he was just
Oh,
like
no.
$10 left. And I was
Mhm.
like, you're not coming to the holiday party.
It is hard though.
It's
It
always
is
the
hard when
family
eggs are like
members.
$10, but
Yeah. But then you have, the trucking product, which is extremely price sensitive, right?
Yeah.
Like it's such a high ticket price. But and then on George, your end, I feel like if you sell the right life insurance policy, health insurance policy, that could be a client for life,
yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually pretty much almost never leave. Like we still have clients that we signed up, in
Mhm.
2021 November.
Yeah.
A bunch. I would say majority of them are.
So the one last main piece I want to talk about before we kind of segue out is let's talk a little bit about what it's like working at a brokerage over a captive.
Mhm.
Right now, there's a lot of home and auto agents working for captives who want to get into the independent space. Just take the listener through your shoes on what it's like when you get a prospect and what your process is for shopping that at Remco. And we'll start with Irina.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think the main difference is just the amount of options we have. And I feel like a lot of agents that are captive, they're just so used to that captive environment where they don't want to switch out because it's like, well, now I have to learn 10 new companies, what they like, what they don't like,
Mhm.
which is kind of like you're limiting yourself on what you're going to be able to sell. Because at Remco, I hear Carl all the time. He'll pick up the phone, it's a lead, and then he'll be like, hey, Mark, can we do a butcher that's flying in a hot air balloon?
Yeah.
And Mark will be like, yeah, can you go to
It's
this
always,
market?
right? Yeah.
So it's just trial and error over
Yeah.
time. If you have a niche market that you sell, you already know, like, hey, for example, if I'm selling trucking, I know for your first year it's going to be Progressive, Geico, or Cover Whale.
Mm-hmm.
And then after your first year, we can go and talk about other options. And then you get into the fleet units of 11 plus units. And it's the same thing for pretty much anything an agent would want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do mechanic shops, you have options for that. Or if you want to do and be like Carl does anything.
He does.
And he does a lot of interesting risks.
He does.
And that's kind of the benefit of being with a brokerage.
That's a
where
good point.
You don't have to be like, hey, I'm sorry, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Or if somebody calls you and they're like, well, my renewal went up, you're not like, well, I'm sorry, there's not much we can do.
Yeah.
You can shop it with a couple of different other companies and save them some money. And even if you didn't save them money, you can just be like, hey, we shopped it with 5 different companies. You're still at the best rate.
Yeah. And unique companies too. You bring up a really good
Yeah.
point because we talk about that excess and surplus line. So for those listening, that's basically the black market for insurance when nobody, standard company doesn't want you. We have access to a lot of those. And it allowed me to befriend. It's like that Nemo, like sharks are friend, not food. It's like insurance agents are friends, not food. Like
Yep.
I started becoming really close friends, a lot of which have been on the pod, a lot of which are contractors for us that dabble in a particular product, but they don't touch the butcher in the hot air balloon. So just for those listeners, we do specialize in the unusual. We have Irina who really focuses on the trucking specifically, but those very odd jobs, I say like the dirty jobs, the ones that they used to have those shows, the riskier, the better.
Yeah.
We have a market for it, right?
Yep.
And then George, just in terms of just health insurance market, life insurance market, what's your workflow for when something comes in?
I mean, with health, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's only like 3 carriers in PA. So there's always like just, the 3 options like IBX, Jefferson, or AM Better.
Mhm.
Sometimes Highmark, depending on the area. But for life, I kind of like chose personally to stick with the best Mass Mutual just because like they've been around since like 1800s and they've been paying dividends since like 1800s, which is it's pretty wild.
They've stuck to what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, because not to like downplay any of like our carriers, but it's just like if you're a life insurance company and you open in the 80s, it's kind of like, did you really solidify yourself yet? That's why it's kind of like
That's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
You held up-
authority wise, because
Yeah.
for like most of my like closed sales for life. That sells. Like when you tell somebody like, yeah, this company's been around since like 1880.
Basically, they've had enough money to not only insure you, but then to pay when you need it to.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so that's a good point. It's a good selling point. And then for those listening, what are the stages in life where like life insurance is like a no-brainer, like where you definitely have to consider having it?
I mean, obviously, when you have a kid, when you first get married, but like if you can, and if you are 18 and you're listening, like get it as early as possible, because that you lock in that, you know, that cheap rate that you'll have for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And
then I have people call me forward. He's like, oh, I want to get life insurance. And this guy is a trucker, and he needs to get a cholesterol test done at the doctor's. And life insurance saw that. And they took like 3 weeks. Yeah, his blood report came back not so hot.
It came back with a taquito in it.
Yeah. And it's like,
I hear you. So yeah, the common misconception too is like, oh, I'm young, I'm healthy, I don't need it. When am I going to need this? But yeah, the earlier the better, the healthier the better.
Yeah. Plus the whole like that cash value element of it for the whole life product, where like later on when you're like 50 and you want to buy, you know, your 16-year-old grandson that new BMW, he's like, here you go. You could just throw like 10K out of it.
There you go.
And then you have still like 300 left.
There you go.
So.
Well, guys, we're nearing the end of the show. I wanted to thank you both for being on. I think we should start having more of the agents on.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah. Carl's next.
Carl and
Honestly,
Zach will be so loud. We got to put him a whole room away from the microphone.
Yeah, Zach's just going to be yapping about Eagles and Sins and also Call of Duty, but not as good as Irina.
No, that was honestly the most interesting fact that I learned today. So
Irina, COD player, yeah.
Guys, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having
really
us.
appreciate you kind of turning it back on me a little bit and allowing the listeners to get a little perspective into what makes us so quirky and awesome.
Yeah. So if you're listening, Remco's awesome. Come work for us.
Come work for us, please.
Especially if you're Spanish speaking.
Yeah. Irina, thanks again for being on.
Thank you for having us,
And
Jay.
George. All right, we're out.